All right, man. We are live and in color. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you being able to do this, Gary. So first of all, I know that we talked a little bit this afternoon to kind of like get the ball rolling,
hmm
and you're probably the only person I know who's like a super hardcore fan, has been like that since like day one. You and I have talked, in months past, kind of like about your passion and how you kind of got into it and how you're still really involved. Obviously, you're
Sure.
a TTMer, you're a wrestling fan, you're a true believer. So it's not like this is something you just kind of stumbled upon in the last couple of years.
Right.
So with that being said, my first question is somebody who you've been to wrestling events, you've been watching
Mhm.
it forever, you on TV and in person there in Texas, the last year and a half. Hey, what up, Hitman? I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate you popping on, Mike. Um, so as you know, last year and a half, there has been no crowds at
Right.
wrestling events.
hmm
And now they're all coming back. AEW started it about a couple of weeks ago, like full crowds. They've been kind of letting people come in and out of Jacksonville over the last 3 or 4 months, almost six
hmm
months if you really think about it, letting people
Right.
trickle in. But they really blew the doors off about 2, 3 weeks ago when they hit up Miami for the
Right.
first time, and then they hit up the last couple of Texas shows.
Right.
So with all that being said, where do you think this is going to go in the echelon of wrestling? How do you feel the COVID era with wrestling with no fans and everybody scrambling to figure out how it's going to work with no fans? To as a fan yourself, how does having fans there affect in a positive or negative way for you? And then we'll just kind of keep going from that.
I think it's going to reinvigorate everybody. I think it's going to create a lot more passion in the fans. You know, the one of the best things about wrestling is going to a live event, seeing it
Mm-hmm.
live. It's and I've heard this from other people too. It's like NASCAR. Man, you got to be there. It's like one of those type of things, but it really does. I mean, it's the circus live and being brought to you right there in front of your eyes. So I think it's going to cause. Um, I, I mean, apparently the Money in the Bank was just filmed right down the road, or it was done right down the road, and man, the fans were packed in there from what I saw. So that passion is going to be coming back. I think in a lot of weird ways, it was kind of nice to step back from sports, not just wrestling, but other sports too, and just kind of take a break and just breathe again and just kind of feel human. And I think it's recharged everybody's batteries. So I think it's going to be a good thing for the wrestling thing. I'm going to a live event Saturday here in my town, right down the road. So I'm going to go see a couple of guys that um, have been in WWE, or one of my favorite wrestlers that's in MLW, and I get to see Fuego from AEW. So
Nice.
I'm excited, dude. Yep.
the the
Cheers
master of
to
the
that.
tornado DDT, baby.
I know, right? I'm so
Right,
excited about it. Like, I don't think he's much bigger than my 5-year-old, but I'm really excited for him to meet him. I've got it.
right.
My boy, he's got one of those championship belts of AEW, and I'm gonna see if Fuego will sign it for him, man. I think it'll be kind of cool.
That'd be definitely a pretty unique item.
I know, right?
Maybe some foreshadowing, maybe a couple years out. Let's say.
Yeah. Yep. I see it
So I
happening.
so I haven't seen Dynamite yet, and I don't know. Do you watch Dynamite pretty religiously?
I watch Dark more than anything, just because I don't have cable. So,
Okay,
and I know
so let me.
everybody streams and stuff, but
Yeah, me too. I don't. I have to watch it on. I have to watch it on the dark web the next
yeah,
day because I can't. I don't have cable. But
yeah.
if you don't mind, Mike, who won that match between Moxley and Archer? Because he just said he goes, man, that
Archer,
match tonight was dope, huh?
I hope Archer, man. I got a
I mean, I
shirt.
hope so too. I'm hoping Archer won. I like Moxley, but I hope
Yeah,
Archer won because a Texas Death Match would have been so cool for him to win
yeah,
it in
dude.
his hometown.
Yeah, he lives right down
So
the road, man.
yeah, I think he said he's from Hearn, Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
He used to work out in Hurst, Texas, but he lives like right on the outskirts of Dallas. Like, I think I know where he stays. He did a live broadcast one time on his channel, and I'm like, Oh my God. Just I knew the background of kind of where it was, and I'm like, I bet I know where that's at. So I've never asked him, man, but he's a very big dude, very nice dude. But
Right.
he used to work out here in Arlington where I'm at, and he used to go to one of the gyms here, and they used to do a couple of shows and stuff, and he's been there. But dude, Moxley, he's a freaking awesome wrestler. But I know that
Yeah.
he's taken him to task a couple of times in New
Yes.
Japan. So I hope Archer gave him a dose of his own medicine. Came back
Well,
and
Mike just confirmed that he did indeed win. So Archer won today. So I'm like pumped. I'm like,
yeah,
yeah,
Psychotron baby.
yeah, baby. That is awesome, dude. Thanks for. I can't wait to watch the match tomorrow morning. But I'm
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I felt like the buildup was good enough that like you said, he got beat in the Tokyo Dome back in
yep,
2000, like first in 2020. And then
yep,
him and Moxley had a match about 6-8 months ago when he
yep,
was a championship when he was a champion and he beat
yep,
Archer in like a big old knockdown drag out. So I'm like,
yeah,
dude, he cannot. I feel like he kind of like with Miro, they
mhm,
needed a big win and then they can push him for a while because
yeah,
him and Miro, both felt like kind of fumbled out of the gate. Like they had they have all the tools, but they weren't
right,
given the proper push. So
yep,
I'm glad to see that Miro's taking off now. Archer hopefully can take off and like build off of this
right,
because these are guys that especially Archer who've definitely put in the time. I mean, he's been with the company now for a year or more, so
yeah.
he needs to definitely kind of come out of the shadows and start like doing some other stuff. So
Dude, he's an absolute monster, man. If they would just, let him be that monster that he needs to
sure.
be, him and Miro, dude, wouldn't that be awesome if they were a tag team?
Oh
Ooh,
my
fantasy
gosh,
booking,
dude,
baby.
yes.
Fantasy
I
booking,
totally
dude. They
agree.
kill everybody.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So to go back to the original question I asked you, I was thinking this too today. Like I was telling you, I was coming up with some ideas to talk about. So I honestly thought it was really cool when there was no fans from a fan perspective for a
Right.
couple reasons. One, you weren't as distracted, so you really can focus on what's happening in the ring
Right.
because obviously the camera is not taking off the action the camera takes the action from the ring to the stands to show the fan reaction and to show what's going on. So you're not
Right.
seeing everything in the ring a lot of times. And I mean, the perfect example was last week when they had the coffin match between Ethan Page and Darby Allin. There's a few times that they moved the camera away to show the fan reaction, and they were
Right.
doing some crazy spots, and you miss it. And so,
Right.
so I like the fact that you kind of got to see the entire match, no matter if it's
Hmm.
spilled out to the floor, up in the stands, or whatever. Like
Right.
there's no crowd reaction. So I kind
Right.
of liked it as a selfish person to see it without the distraction. But
Right.
today I was watching Sammy Guevara's vlog, and I have to, or I'm sorry, Ethan Page's vlog, and I watched Sammy Guevara's too. But it was so cool because he was showing one of his buddies or whatever was filming that match, just
Right.
being there, and to hear how big the crowds were popping for the stuff they were doing in and
Right.
out of the ring. When Darby Allin, I don't know if you've seen that match yet, but he climbs up to the top of like one of
Hmm.
those like awnings right before you go underneath the tunnel to go out to go get
Right.
your food or whatever. He
Right.
crawls up to the top and he tries to like just coffin dive off the top there. And Ethan Page grabs him midair and starts swinging him up against the metal poles. And I'm like, that is epic. And you see it from that
Yeah.
perspective and seeing everybody freaking out. I feel like sometimes the cameras in the theater, I'm sorry, the cameras in the ring don't show that kind of like intense crowd reaction because it's just,
Right.
they have to pull back to show everything.
Right.
But
Right.
like me holding my phone up to you going nuts next to everybody is a lot more like intense feeling because you
Right.
feel like you're there. So
Right.
I definitely like the idea of having some of that opportunity to see it as more like almost an art form and they're performing in the ring with that being the focus and then seeing it from the crowd's reaction, like actually you're in the belly of the beast, which I thought was
Right.
cool too.
Yeah. I definitely helps with the intensity and definitely gets everybody pumped up and ready to go. So I think it's awesome,
Without a
man.
doubt.
Either way, because it's like you had to come up with something during this whole thing to keep eyes glued to the TV, and we saw it,
Sure.
with the wars again. AEW NXT, AEW NXT. It was a fight during that whole COVID era, man. But you know, we're gonna look back on this and be like, you know, they made it work. They made it
Yeah,
work, and I
and they
think
never
that
stopped. You know,
yeah,
and I'll give that to WWE. I'm not the biggest WWE fan. I haven't been in a
yeah,
while, but I give them an AEW and Impact and even
yeah,
NWA there towards the end kind of started kind of moving forward and getting stuff kind of rolling. That when a lot
right,
of other places were closed down, they still try to provide entertainment. And of course, it's they're nowhere near as lucrative as a Major League Baseball teams and basketball teams. So it's a little bit
right.
of like self-preservation. I mean, we got to be honest. But
I want to give
um,
a quick shout out to the Media Marauder, man.
yeah,
It's
he's a great. Yeah, and
dude,
I
I
and
love
not
watching his videos.
yeah, he's great. So I wanted
Yeah,
to go off of what he said is it was. I'm sure it was tough. I mean,
yeah,
Gary, you go to a lot of live events.
mhm,
When there's no crowd or there could be a huge crowd or even just people there. If
right,
no one's responding to what you're doing, the
yeah,
wrestlers that's a tough gig to get through that
yeah,
5 minute or 10 minute, 15 minute match. If you're going all out, you're just doing all these crazy moves. You're just talking up a storm, and everybody's just kind of like,
right, right. They're off in another world, and it's funny you say that because I actually have a buddy that was a wrestler for 18 years, and he was telling me, you know, they were at a decent venue in Fort Worth one time, and they were wrestling, and I've seen him wrestle there before, and it was a great match. But you know, he heard some people out from the crowd, you know, fans interacting and stuff, saying, "Man, this match reminds me of like one from like the 1950s." And I was like, "Well, that can't be that bad." And he goes, "No, dude, that's a horrible, horrible thing to say." He's like, you know, it's just, you know, he took it as an insult. You know, I just thought it was hilarious. I thought
well,
it,
what
you
he should
know,
have done is the next week or whatever, his gimmick should have been have like a blonde wig and a mirror, and he just
he,
kind of looked at himself like a gorgeous George from back in the day with his robe, and be like,
yeah,
"Here's some '50s wrestling for you."
right.
So I would just to kind of put it over the top there.
Yeah, people
So
wound up getting into it, but you know, it was just kind of funny hearing it come from the perspective of the wrestler, you know, and what they perceive as compliments and stuff, you know. And
right,
I remember my buddy was like cheering him whenever he goes to the ring. My buddy's like, "Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Go Seth," and he's like holding down the top rope, and he goes, "Ben, I'm a heel tonight. I'm a heel," and my buddy
Well,
was like, "Boo, boo."
I thought it was interesting talking about like the crowd reaction and like depending on where you live or where the wrestlers are from,
Right.
because yes, like you were saying, you watch Elevation and then Dark, I guess you said, which I love to watch as well. But they
Yeah.
showed yesterday the match between Kylan King and Thunder Rosa, and
Mm.
obviously Thunder Rosa's, she's not from Texas, but she's based out of Texas now. I know she's from Mexico originally, but she's like pretty much lived in Texas like a third of her life at this point or whatever, and she
Oh yeah.
definitely considers Mexico / Texas her home.
Right.
And when she came out, man, she probably had the biggest pop of everybody,
Yeah.
including the Dynamite roster, really.
Of
And
course.
when she wrestled against Kylan King, and I thought, because King keeps moving up the card, I think she's getting better and better and better.
Mhm.
And then it was cool that Rosa gave her lots of offense. In
Right.
that it wasn't like a squash match for her,
Right.
but like
Right.
let her have some moments. And I
Right.
thought that was really good because regardless, she was kind of doing some heelish things actually.
Of course.
Rosa was,
Right.
but
Yeah.
because the crowd, because it's Texas, it's
Mhm.
like you can't do anything wrong. She
Right.
tried to do that same thing in like Wisconsin. They might be like boo, but
Mhm.
they were just like putting her over, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. She's a true professional, man. She really knows her stuff. She knows how to
Six
interact
years,
with the crowd.
6 years. That's all she's been doing this. I think they said. And
Yeah.
I just
Dude,
every time I hear that, I'm always like, man, I feel like she's been doing it for 16 years, and like how
yeah.
well she does things. So
Yeah. But you know, I mean, she does definitely have those heelish type things. When the times that I've met her, I felt a little bit intimidated, but she's cool like
yeah,
that. And I can tell you too, man, there is a video clip that I have of her wrestling at a local show for MPX Wrestling. She was wrestling against Leva Bates, who's one of the librarians in AEW or whatever.
yeah,
And it was the theme night was Purple Rain. So of course Leva's dressed up as Prince comes out, and they were dance. She was dancing the song "Let's Go Crazy," coming in the ring. Then she kind of passes it off to Rosa. And Rosa does her thing and she starts dancing. I'm just like, that is just awesome, man. But
Yeah, that's
unfortunately, I
cool.
know I would get a strike if I put it up on YouTube. Hopefully, there's a
Sure.
way I continue the clip sometime so you can see because
Yeah,
it's
man,
pretty
that would be
hilarious, man.
awesome. Let me
Yeah.
ask you about a wrestler that wrestles a lot in Texas and is like
Mhm.
connected a lot with Thunder Rosa's promotion. And
Mhm.
she's wrestled back during the like a lot of more of the COVID matches early on. She would wrestled a
Okay.
couple different times, and
Mhm.
I think she's awesome. And she's shown up a lot on NWA. Is
Mhm.
Genocide? Have you seen her wrestle in person?
I think I've seen her once or twice, but I think it was probably early on in her career. So
She was like something Von Muscles or something. I think also she went by that name.
it's very,
Um,
very possible.
Have you
Yeah,
you know who I'm talking about? Have you seen her wrestle like on TV
I
then or
do
at
know
some
who you're
point?
talking about.
She
I
looks like
just
a
think,
robot kind of. She like paints her face silver and she has like these big glasses like from like the 1980s and she's like built like a brick house. I mean, she's like huge. And I mean, I'm not talking about heavy set. I'm talking about like muscular. She's like Kylan King, maybe even taller, except with
okay,
probably like 30 pounds of muscle.
huh?
I mean,
I'm
she's a big girl. She's probably taller than like I don't even know. I mean, like Nyla Rose, I guess is pretty big, but I mean, like she's bigger than Nyla Rose. So
wow.
I mean, like you saw her sitting next to Diamante, and it looked like Diamante was like she was taking her to school and dropping her off at school. I mean, it looked
I
like
like
that much of a
Diamante.
difference. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
Okay.
And she
Yeah,
started
I think
she
she's
started to do
good.
some. Her and Big Swole's getting ready to have a throwdown, so I'm excited.
Yeah. You know
So
who Big Fool's brother is, don't you?
no,
If I'm not mistaken, it's in in
Cedric
WWE he's known
Alexander is
as
her husband.
Isaiah Swerve Scott. I knew
Oh,
him as Shane Strickland. That's how I
okay.
knew him. But I'm pretty sure that that's her brother, which is it's kind of cool. I think she's talented too. I don't think she gets enough credit. Some people like I don't know. You hear a lot of negative stuff, and you hear a lot of negative stuff about AEW. Whenever I think that's the more exciting product right now, anyway. So
Right.
I think that
I
they're,
don't know.
you know,
I think it's awesome because if you look at, I mean, there no. I always have to feel like I need to preface this because people, if they go back and watch this, will like have meltdowns or whatever. But
yeah,
like, they're not even competing with WWE, and they're not trying to. But the fact that they are being able to sell out these venues,
right,
and like not have the traction that WWE had, like they've been basically right when they
right,
got going, COVID happened. So they never
right,
could get like momentum really going because they did their first live shows like the end of 2019, and
right,
then their March of 2020 they had to shut everything down.
right,
So,
right,
but anyways, but to go back to your point is like the last three shows I've seen them do live, not including the
right.
Jacksonville shows, have
Mhm.
been like wall to wall people, and
Yeah,
they keep getting bigger and bigger venues. So I mean, right now, I mean, like you said, they are the hot product. I mean, they have not
yeah.
really disappointed. I mean, everybody has a misstep here and there, but
Sure.
overall, I feel like their product has been very, very spot on. At least keeps me coming back for more.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I mean, even the dark stuff, man, just
Yeah,
it's crazy.
and
I love it.
they're also finally, and like you said, you might not be watching it as religiously like the actual shows, the Dynamite, but they're finally weaving like elevation and dark storylines and matches
Okay.
into Dynamite. And so it, initially they weren't doing that, so it kind of became like a little bit stagnant because you'll have like the Acclaimed, which I think are
Right.
hilarious. I love them right now,
Okay.
and they'll be doing all kind of stuff on Dark and things. And then when you see them show up in Dynamite, all the shade they were throwing at people and all the kind of backstabbery going on didn't really
Right.
translate because they weren't really like capitalizing on stuff like that. Now there's all
Yeah.
kinds of connections finally. So they're
Yeah.
starting to like say if it happens on Dark, it happens in Dynamite and vice
Yeah.
versa. So they're
Yeah.
starting to do some crossover, which
Yeah.
which to me it's kind of like watching like the Avengers. Like you have all this stuff happening in different products, but there's a
Right.
crossover film too. So
Yep.
you don't
Yep.
want to pretend what's happening in one is not happening in the other because it takes people out of it who is committed to watching all the product, you know?
Yep.
Hey, what up, Justin? So let me ask you this, or I'm going to
Sure.
tell you. I don't know if you saw this by. I don't know if you saw this by media, but he was talking about how he filmed indie wrestling for years, and
Yeah.
he filmed Britt Baker many times, and
Yeah.
she's now the world women's champion at AEW, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And
Deservingly so.
and she did. And I mean, here's the thing: I was a Sheeta fan, but as soon as Britt Baker got ready, and she's definitely been ready for a while now. I felt like
Yeah.
ever since that death match she did, or like that lights out match, I should
Yeah.
say, she did with
Yep.
Thunder Rosa. Man, oh man, I was like, give her the strap, and she's ready. Like
Yep.
that was epic because her
Yep.
mic skills are already like on fire. Her and MJF,
Yeah.
give them a microphone and just let them go to town, dude. Did you hear her? Did you hear her? The promo she cut on Nyla Rose 2 weeks ago about Dallas being the Big D. Oh my gosh! And then she said Tony Khan better start getting his act together because he's going to end up having to have blood money like in Saudi Arabia, taking shots at WWE. I was like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah. She's fearless, man. And I do like that about her. She's, she ain't afraid to bleed, man. So she's talented.
So let me go back and ask you this because I know I don't want to get too far off topic. Whoa, you see me? Am I flashing in and out?
I do. I see it. Does that mean go?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
crazy, dude. I like it.
I got the mirror ball going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with it. I mean, like, why not? So, if it's not too distracting for you, it might cause people to have like epileptic seizures. But I'm not for sure exactly how to get out of it. To be honest with you, let's see if it lets me do it. That's so weird. So I don't. If I go out and come back in, I'm not for sure if it'll like kick me out of the whole thing. I'm not for sure.
Don't worry, I got a guitar behind the camera. I'll just sing some Kumbaya or whatever for everybody.
All right, so I'm just gonna go with it. I don't care. I won't even look at myself. So let me go back to this real quick. So we talked about it earlier today, and I wanted to make sure I asked you what you thought about this. So WWE, in the wrestling world, I've heard it be mentioned as like Black Wednesday or whatever. Like when they last year when they released like 30 people or whatever, and then they literally did it again this year, and then they did it another one like 6 weeks later. So they're releasing lots and lots of talent.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that? Because it used to be the WWE would go and grab up all the talent to keep other people from getting it. But now they're cutting lots of people loose. So do you see this as what's your thoughts on this?
Man, the way I see it is I think this is the first step to Vince McMahon trying to step down. I think he's liquidating his assets, and I think that he's finally realizing that he's not the only one in the game anymore. Maybe time to kind of cut loose, because if you notice too, man, AEW has been picking up all their guys. That's going to overcrowd their roster too. So now you've got all these different shows and stuff, which isn't a bad thing, but still at the same time, I think the most exciting thing that I've seen, dude, in months, and yeah, it wasn't a WWE talent, but whenever I saw Malachi Black show up in AEW,
yes,
oh my God, dude,
yes.
I popped, and so I'm excited about that. There's, there are some talents that got released in WWE, and unfortunately, one of them that I loved was the female wrestler Vanessa Bourne. I think she had something. If WWE would have invested more time, I thought she had the look. Gosh, she had the look, and she was definitely talented. But I don't think that WWE saw a champion.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, saw a champion in here, so to speak. So I think that they had their plates full with, the Charlotte Flairs and the Asukas and Rhea Ripley's and all these other females that are doing a fantastic job. But, I think that their plate is just crowded too. Everybody's wanting to make an impact. Everybody can't make an impact. So sometimes you just got to cut bait and hopefully things will, sadly, sadly, like Braun. Whenever I saw that Strowman got released, I'm just like,
Yeah,
if he's making whatever, I think they said something like 6 million a year, something like that, and you got to cut costs. I, I could understand that. Maybe Vince saw something that we didn't as fans, and it could have been anything. He loves his
true.
monsters. I understand that, but he sees things that we don't see. So sometimes you just got to put your trust in that. I think Cody's kind of a renegade in a lot of ways, and I think he has a lot of input for what talent comes in and what may go out as far as AEW. But I think a lot of these guys are just happy being indie guys too. So you got that to work with, and people make a decent living on the indies. So, and they can do it
Yeah,
on their own terms without anybody getting in their business, interfering with their merch, making money that way, or just uh, bringing local crowds to their feed. That's what they want to do. It's what they feel that they're born to do. So
sure.
it's unfortunate those people did lose their job the way they did, as it being kind of shoddy or whatever. But I understand it. I get it. Sadly.
Well, I think that like I think it makes sense to you. What makes sense to what you're saying, I agree with, is that I feel like Vince. I keep hearing people say that he is uh, thinning out the roster, and not just the roster, but also like people behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like the people who run the websites and the TV shows and all that,
Right.
because he's gonna sell it, and that way he can maximize the biggest payout that he can get from it by having less people. And it makes sense. Now, is that true? Is that going to happen? Time will tell. But I do think that I find it interesting that that strategy has never been WWE strategy, Vince McMahon strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he's always about grabbing up everybody, even if it doesn't serve any real purpose, just to
Right.
keep them away from other people getting the talent.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
it is interesting because, like you said, maybe he just realizes this is not going to happen. Maybe like the bottom line's starting to finally, like, even though they're making, their revenue is crazy. I mean, they're just like making money hand over fist with all the deals they got going on. So it's not
Yep.
like they're struggling by any stretch. But sometimes enough's never enough.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think a lot of that there's some of that there too. I mean,
Yeah.
my opinion is, like you said, is that people will complain and piss and moan like, well, AEW just becoming WCW, or just like WWE, WWF back in the day, And I'm
Yeah.
like, guess what? WWF/E, that's all they've ever done too. They go up and buy everybody up. That's
Yep.
exactly what they've done. And
Yep.
I'm like, that's what wrestling promotions do. Like, and I go, the one thing that I got to give AEW credit for is they introduced a huge crop of people that no one knew before to a
Mm-hmm.
to a universal audience. The guy
Right.
that's out there grinding in Texas that no one knows about. Like, I never heard of Thunder Rosa. I never heard of Ethan Page. I never heard
Right.
of Darby Allin. I've never heard of Scorpio Sky. I never
Right.
heard of Lance Archer. I never
Right.
heard of the Young Bucks. I mean, I can
Oh,
keep
dude.
going on and on and on and on. And guess what? All these people are major players in the
Yeah.
AEW.
Oh, I don't
And
know if you
yes,
know this or not, but Lance Archer was in WWE. He was there
but
for a cup of
he must
coffee.
have
He
been
was,
a jobber or something. He was
yeah, he was known as Vance Archer.
Vance Archer.
Yeah, they even made some cards of him, and he was in TNA for many, many
Right.
years. He even has an action figure, which I think is kind of crazy, but uh,
That's awesome though.
it
But
it
I
is,
mean,
man. It is.
the thing is that there's so much of these talented people that are that again they're shot at AEW, and they're mixing it in there
Mhm.
with the Miros and the
Yes.
Stings and the
Yep.
Dustin Rhodes and
Yep.
the big shows and Mark Henry. I mean, these guys are not like all over the place. They're like get little spots here and there. But
Right.
generally speaking, aside from like a Chris Jericho, like
Hmm.
almost all these other guys I'm mentioning, Sammy Guevara, like they almost always are in the spotlight. There's only a
Yep.
handful of older talent that's really getting a big push at any given time.
Yep.
So I think when people complain, they don't really look at the roster and how they're being used.
Right. Are you a big fan of Sammy Guevara?
I do. I love Sammy Guevara. Like I said, I never knew him. I never knew who he was. I think the first time I ever saw him, he was coming out in some like panda outfit or something.
Yep.
And I was like, what is this dude? And, like this is like some like Kung Fu Panda like cosplay reject.
Right.
And
Well,
but I mean when I started seeing him wrestle, I was like, whoa.
Get your Sammy Guevara merchandise. Get it. Get it. Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yes. So I mean, yeah, I love Sammy Guevara. I think he's a real good guy. He seems. I mean, I watch him. I watch the Young Bucks like BTE, and I watch No Gimmicks, real names, Ethan Page's all YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's Ethan Page. He's just a normal guy. Like he doesn't really try to do like a gimmick on his show. Right. Like he separates the two. So he's really Julian when he's on his vlog. And then Sammy Guevara is kind of like 50-50. And the Young Bucks is like 100% trying to pretend to be heels right now. Like that's their thing. So they're like, they're all about that life right now. So like you're still getting a lot of like kayfabe, type stuff going on in theirs. And like they're trying to like go do that whole thing. But watching Ethan Page's stuff, it's like the legit, like just like me and you talking right now, which I really like. And like I said, I didn't know who he was before. I know he was off on TNA. He was doing some kind of Karate Man and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But when I saw him on AEW, I saw them. They introduced him like earlier this year as in the Battle Royale. I was kind of like, who's this jabroni? Coming out and like unzipping his jacket and like trying to like like take it off all slow. Like, yeah, look at me. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Right.
And I have to say, I wasn't that impressed. But then I saw him throwing around Lance Archer in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, who is this guy? And then I don't like that he's in a tag team with Scorpio Sky. I think Scorpio Sky is like super overrated. I don't find him. I find him zero charisma, zero interest from that guy. So I feel like he's being held back, unfortunately, by Scorpio Sky. And so we'll see. I hope they move. I know they just started a whole new thing, Men of the Year, so I'm afraid they're stuck together for a while. But I'm hoping that he can break away and go back to doing the singles competitor. I think that's his bread and butter. Like the whole Derby match was so killer. So killer.
I did get to see some of the highlights on that. Man, I got to ask you too, man. I think you said you watched some of Sammy Guevara's vlogs or whatever. I think one of the funniest things I've ever seen was the interactions between Dustin Rhodes and Fuego. Like the whole spanking and stuff.
My son.
I don't know why. I would just lose it, man. I would just lose it.
Well, they did it yesterday or today. I guess it was Tuesday or whatever. They released a new one. I don't know if you saw that one, but it's funny because he's over here trying to do it to the other guys in the group, and they're just like, "Don't touch us! Like, get away from us!" And then like he tells Dustin to sit on, Fuego tells Dustin to sit on his lap, and he starts kissing him on the head and telling him it's gonna be okay. And, I like that. I think it's funny. I enjoy it. So
I mean, I do too, man. I don't know what it was, but like the first time I saw it, I was like, what the H is this? And then, as I'm watching it and, every week, he's getting spanked or whatever, just having that talk with him. And I'm just dying laughing, just at the whole ridiculousness of it all, And,
oh my gosh. I do. I love it, dude. I definitely love it. Let me ask, there's a question by media here. Who's the AEW guy that wrestled Pat McAfee, the podcast guy? That was the punter for the Colts. Was there an AEW guy who wrestled Pat McAfee? What was it? Adam Cole? Did they get into an altercation?
Yeah, I know that Adam Cole did. Yeah,
but he's not with AEW now. His girlfriend is. Britt Baker and him in real life are dating.
Right.
But I think that's the only one I can think of. But it wasn't an AEW guy.
But he may be on. There could be somebody. I know that there was a guy. I know that there was a guy that was in NXT, came over to AEW for just a brief period. I'm trying to remember his name right now. No, he was
Yeah,
the punter.
with the British
So he was
guy.
the punter. I know who he's talking about. I think he's an Italian guy. I can't. Gia. Oh man. Oh my God. I know who he's
It's
talking
not
about though.
VSK, is it?
Huh?
It's not
Sabonis? No.
VSK.
No, it's
You said it's an Italian guy?
Sabatini. Sabatini. That's who it
Oh,
was.
Morello
Because
Sabatini?
yeah, because they were calling him Savvy in AEW, and then
Oh,
he
okay.
went back to WWE, if I understood correctly. He was the
Okay.
punter. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think him and Pat McAfee had a brief dust up there for a moment.
Yeah.
It's still
Oh,
really didn't. Yeah.
so let me ask you this. And I know you've been watching a lot. You've been watching, you said like a lot of AEW Dark and Elevation. Let me ask you about Elevation. How do you think? Are you been watching that as well or no?
No, I've just been sticking to the dark. But if it's
Wow,
free, I'll
man.
watch it.
Okay,
If
I'm
it's free, I'll
surprised.
watch it.
And I'm sure you know this. Big Show's doing commentary over on Elevation,
Nice.
and the crazy thing is that people were complaining that they thought they're going to end up having like Mark Henry and Big Show and all these guys starting to pop in. They're going to
Right.
all of a sudden like take over and just like start running programs on everybody. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
like, Mark Henry has not even shown up at all in like 3 weeks. Like he popped in and then he popped out. So I don't even know what he's doing right now. I think he's going to end up doing something with Rampage, I guess, in next month. I'm assuming. But
I'm wondering too if he still has like some of these indie shows that he was doing, because here in Texas, him and Teddy Long and then Charlie Haas and a couple other cats, I can't even remember the name of the federation right now, but you can find it on YouTube. They've been doing wrestling here in North Texas and all around in Texas, doing the swing loop pretty much. Selena De La Renta's been in there.
okay.
And I think World Class is starting up again. So there's a possibility, pardon me, that he may have some indie dates that he still has commitments to.
Well, what I was thinking about was because if you go back and watch like Big Show, Paul White, like I think people were freaking out that he ends up gonna like take over and take somebody, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, spot on the roster. But he's just been doing commentary exclusively. And I gotta be honest, like when he first popped in to do commentary, and he's with Tony Schiavone, thank God, because Tony Schiavone is like the man on the mic. So he's definitely he's gold. But I was a little bit concerned. But he's actually kind of grown on me more recently. I like Paul White on the mic now talking about wrestling. It's just so odd to see somebody who's like 7'4" or whatever, like sitting next to Tony Schiavone. He looks like a little baby next to him when they're like and he's starting to kind of inject himself into some of these stuff with QT Marshall and stuff. So I have a feeling it's going to bubble over eventually, which is cool, as long as it doesn't take away from everything else going on. Like I don't need a bunch of Big Show matches circa 2007 or whatever. I don't need that, or 1999. But if you want to do like a match with him and Jake Hager, or him or Miro, or him or Lance Archer, like big old slabs of meat hitting each other, hey, I'm all for that.
Yeah. Every few months or so, not to where it's like a permanent spot on the roster. I understand, like a special attraction type thing.
Right. Well, here we got BF Golf Goes Texas, Von Erich's Rule. I figure you appreciate that.
Yeah, this is still Von Erich country here where I'm at. So
yeah. So let me ask you this, because you watch obviously Dark, then it sounds like pretty religiously. Are you watching WWE at all? Are you watching Impact, Ring of Honor? Are you watching anything else really?
MLW.
Okay. So MLW, do they have the one? Was Leo Rush on that, and he like left recently, or?
He was.
And then wasn't there an Asian guy that was like a shaved head, like an Asian guy that's over there?
Yes. And Leo Rush did an independent show here a few months ago, right before he retired.
Right. So, and then Davey Boy Smith Jr. just left MLW, right?
Yeah, I think he's doing
He's
more.
with WWE now. He went back to WWE.
Well, good for him, man. I hope he makes that money. I do. He was a pretty underrated, in my opinion. He was really underrated than what people gave him credit for. In my honest opinion,
Yeah,
that dude
I
can
thought he
move in
was
there.
great when I watched
Yeah,
MLW, something like you were talking about. I don't mean to cut you off, but just to compliment what you're saying, I thought he was definitely underrated. I was surprised that WWE cut him years ago, so I'm glad they're giving him a chance to come back.
you know why they cut him though, right?
Mm-mm. No, why? What's up?
From my understanding, he had kind of the same little bit of issue as his father did. He's a little bit in
Um,
the
okay,
HGH. So
yeah. Well, I
that's
don't
that's
think
my
that's the case
understanding.
anymore.
But dude, incredible talent, man, and the dude can move, and he's got
Yeah.
like real life fighting experience behind him. I know he participated in this promotion called Bloodsport, where it was like wrestlers that really wanted to fight got in a ring and would fight other people. That's so awesome, man. That's so awesome. But
so
yeah,
So let me ask you, talking about wrestlers who did like crazy stuff, and you're talking about the blood sport thing. Media's mentioning, and I remember this. I know you probably watched this some. Lucha Underground. Did you remember watching it with Vampiro as
I
there
sure
was his
did.
commentator?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah,
Dude, I honestly think I know Vampiro is a little bit like out there in left field. Like I've watched a
sure.
couple interviews he's been in. One
Right.
about 6 months ago he did with Chris Van Vliet, and
Yes.
he was talking about some like I don't know, like some otherworldly type of topics or whatever. But
Hmm.
if you can rein him in, he is a fantastic commentator. I
Yeah.
really think
Yeah.
if I honestly I don't know. I mean, they already have quite a few commentators over there on AEW, but I mean, if they ever needed somebody else, I would think, man, Vampiro would be awesome.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys that totally is underrated.
Right.
Not just his in ring stuff, but just everything about him.
Yep. I remember listening, watching the Lucha Underground. Uh, I think I watched every episode, if I'm not mistaken, whenever it was on
Mm-hmm.
one of the streaming channels that I had. And like listening to Vampiro talk during a match and calling the match, and you forget that it's Vampiro. He sounds like
Yeah.
an absolute professional calling these moves and
Yes.
providing that extra kick that that either some commentators have or they don't. But dude definitely has it. So I it would be kind of nice if he replaced Taz.
Yeah. And the thing is weird. It's funny you say Taz because I'll go back and watch a lot of old WWE DVDs I
Mhm.
have, and Taz is the commentator on like dozens of those because it seemed like he was the guy there from like 2006 to 2017. But he was like pretty much commentator at that point, not really wrestling
Mhm.
anymore.
Right.
And he seemed to be a lot more on his A game calling those matches, maybe because like he was scared that Vince McMahon was going to fire him at any moment. So
Yeah, I'm
like
sure he
that's
was
what
in
it
a
sounded like
weird.
a lot of people do. And I feel
Mhm.
like when he calls the matches on Dark with Excalibur, which I do love their like banter back and forth and always talking about, you know,
Right.
uh gimmick Jones and Jones this and like, backslide Jones and all this kind of stuff they're always doing
Right.
and everything, and they're not really politically correct, and I think it's great that they kind of get away with that stuff.
Right.
I do feel like he does miss a whole lot of like things during the conversation commentating. I'm like he'll like mess up the different moves, or he'll like mess up where they're from, or like
Right.
forget what's going on in the ring. I'm like,
Yeah.
so I don't know, like he just doesn't care or what's going on.
Yeah. I don't think he cares, man. He's getting paid a lot of money, so I
Yeah.
don't think he's doing that radio show that he used to do in the mornings. But
Oh my
more
god.
power to him, man. I mean, he was a
Yeah.
fantastic wrestler. He had his moments, like you said, whenever he would call things. But it would be kind of nice if they changed things up like that every now and then. Keep the
Yeah.
the main people. Keep
Well,
your
I think
Shivani. But
I think that if you Tony Schiavone, I like JR. I think JR, but I think JR should be removed and let him focus on like the sit down interviews because I think he's great at those. And let somebody else take over comment, like, let Tony Schiavone move into that lead commentator spot
right.
and then put somebody else next to him in Excalibur, like on Dynamite. Because Jim Ross, I think he's much older. I think he's lost a few steps doing it, like he'll get confused. I just think that he's just, I do have to be close to 70. So, I'm not trying to throw shade at him at all. I'm just saying, I think right now the product is passing him up, and he's having a hard time keeping up. And he'll even joke on Dynamite how he goes, "I'm glad we got Excalibur here. He knows that move. Or I know he'll bail me out or whatever." And it's like, thank God Excalibur's here because there's some difficulty in some of your calling this match.
Yeah, and I mean you can't beat WWE Dynamite, so.
No, exactly. Oh my gosh! And like I
was
said,
actually watching Dynamite. I was on vacation with the family, and we were out of town, and they had they had they had cable out there where I was at, and I was like, "Holy smokes, man! I'm going to watch Dynamite," and I did. And whenever I heard Jim Ross say that as they were, leaving the show, I looked at my wife and I said, "This dude's about to get a lot of crap for what he just said."
Yeah.
And sure enough, man, like, woo.
And the other thing is that I understand, like, people have nostalgia, but like now, like on every Dynamite, he has to say his like 5 to 8 taglines that he's known for, like little like sayings, and I'm like, dude, like it is not necessary. He's like, it's tougher than a $2 steak, and he's like, it's an old slobber knocker. And I'm just like, okay, we got it. Like you say the same thing every week. And I know it sounds like I'm being like, just throwing all this shade at him. And I respect Jim Ross, good old JR, and all that. I don't mean to sound like I'm being like negative, but it's like, just stick to this commentating. Don't feel like you got to get your shtick in every match. It's fine to just go ahead and say, just call the match or come up with some new ones. Try some new stuff out, see if it hits, But anyways, I was going to tell you, like, let's go with, I'd like to play this game with people. So it'll be interesting to not do you, because that'd be weird, but to have you do this game show here. So if you can pick one veteran and one modern day wrestler to pop into whatever AEW, WWE, MLW, who would you like to see show up in what promotion, and like why would you like to see them?
Oh, like are you talking indie wrestlers showing up somewhere?
Anybody. You can just pick anybody anywhere that's like, just pick a promotion that you like, if it's MLW or whatever, and just say who's 2 wrestlers, a modern day wrestler that's they could be an up and comer, they could be independent, they could be a big guy on another network, and a veteran. And what would you like to see them do? Like they're not being utilized enough. Somebody you like to see like get a push, get a rub.
That's a excellent question. One guy I would love to see on a bigger stage from MLW is Gino Medina. He is out of Booker T's school in Houston. And him and my son have actually become kind of fast friends. It's pretty funny. But from the first time we met him a few months ago at the show that we saw Leo Rush at, he has always been kind to my son, and he's always taken pictures with him and stuff. Never even charged because he wanted to. My son will show up in a lucha mask and a cape, and he calls himself Super Killer Croc, which my Gino thinks it's absolutely hilarious. And he said it reminds him a lot of himself whenever he was a kid.
That's awesome, dude.
I got to give him credit for that. He's a fun follow on Instagram, too. He'll post like some little clips of shows that he's been doing. And dude has got it, man. He came from Booker T's school. He knows he knows how to work a crowd. He can definitely be a heel. But he is one of the nicest people you could ever meet. Another
Hmm.
big dude, man, that I could see going into WWE is also from MLW. Guy's name is Calvin Tankman, and this dude is a
Okay.
beast. Like, think a little bit bigger version of Samoa Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this dude has it. He's got it. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but sometimes whenever you see somebody come out, okay,
Right.
you see somebody come out in the entrance, whether it be, you can tell if it's forced or if it's just them, and people pop for just the real thing, you know.
Right.
Those two
Sure.
guys, they've got it, man. They have absolutely got it. So
Right.
I would like to see those guys on a bigger stage. And I know that they could. Hopefully, one day, you know, people will get to see Gino on a bigger stage. People will get to see Calvin Tankman tear it up. So, Sami Zayn and Hulk Hogan. Oh, Henry, man,
So
I tell you, he's a fun watch too. I absolutely
I like
love his
Sami.
channel.
I like
And
Sami Zayn as a wrestler. Maybe not. I don't know if I would agree with him as a person, like his real life. You know,
yeah,
some I think him and I probably don't agree on some of those things. But
mhm,
in the ring,
yeah,
the dude is so awesome. I mean, I gotta
yeah,
like, and that says a lot because I don't want to like people who I know how they are in real life. I don't want to just
right,
like them. But he's
right,
so good at what he does in the ring.
right,
I gotta give him props. And that says a lot about his ability to wrestle and his
right.
ability to sell himself as like the conspiracy theorist thing that he's doing right now and all that. So I like that. So you know, one guy I want to see pop up for me in AEW, and I think he would be a lot more. Um, I think he would have a lot more recognition, kind of like what Ethan Page did. I like Danhausen.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I I love the Danhausen. He's like MJF. He doesn't
yeah,
break character. He plays that guy Danhausen like that is his thing. That's his gimmick. Every time you
yeah,
see him in public, every time he does his channel, I watch his channel as well on YouTube.
yeah,
I think it's great. I mean, you know, I like him. I like him a lot. He's in the also like Orange Cassidy never breaks kayfabe. He's the whole that same thing. And I like that because you don't have too many guys doing what Danhausen does. I mean, he's
right.
you know, and honestly, and I know this is like a dream match for me, but I think that if you can get, and Ring of Honor has had a little bit of dealings with AEW, so I don't know if we could maybe ever see that. I know that Ring of Honor lets those guys do lots of independent, so maybe they could come over to AEW once in a while. I don't know how that will work out. But
Yeah,
if I could book a dream match, if I could be the producer or whatever that the puts this together, I would love to see Danhausen versus Malachi Black right now. I think that would be an epic battle of like two really unique characters.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm
You would
really
be
like you
onto
said when
something.
Malachi Black showed up. Tommy End. I was so thrilled.
Oh, dude, like I said, man, I popped, and that little
Yes.
promo movie thing that he did was
The
just,
day before. Oh my gosh, it was legit, dude.
yeah,
And
like,
then he kicked Arn Anderson in the face with like the black mass or whatever it's called. And then
yep,
I mean, like, dude, you kicked like a 68-year-old man in the face, and it looked
yep,
so good. Like Arn Anderson sold that so well. And then he
yeah,
did the same thing to Cody like 25 seconds later. That was legit.
yeah. And
So
I don't think I've seen Arn take a bump in like 20 something years,
no,
and
I
he
mean
took
he
a
did a
bump for
couple
that
little
dude.
bumps.
So,
He'll do like a couple like smacks in the face by like QT Marshall and all that stuff
right,
just to
right,
kind of get some heat going. But
right.
like a straight up roundhouse kick from like a big dude like that was cool.
Yeah, yeah. I got to give him credit for that, man. I think Cody picks up a lot of these talents. Like, I remember hearing in my town, actually, there was there's a wrestling promotion called VIP Wrestling Dallas,
Uh
and
huh.
they had a 2 night thing, like on a Friday night and a Saturday night. Um, I saw Sammy Guevara take on Cody Rhodes, and
Nice.
before the match starts, of course, Sammy gives him the middle finger, And I think ever since then, they had kind of been in talks about this whole thing that became AEW. And it's funny, I went the first night, I went that Friday night, and the match that I got to see was Keith Lee versus Ray Rowe, who's one of the Vikings in
Oh,
WWE.
nice.
Yeah, and I got a picture with him afterwards. I got a picture with Sammy Guevara. I saw Sammy Guevara take on Zack Sabre Jr. that night. So I'm watching all these guys, and I'm like, why in the heck aren't these guys like in the big leagues? And then all of a sudden, man, freaking, W or AEW was getting in the talks, and then before you know it, Keith Lee's gone, and then Zack Sabre Jr. got a contract offered to him by Triple H, and he turned it down. I think he wound up staying in New Japan, and then Sammy Guevara went to AEW. Ray Rowe went to NXT, and then ultimately WWE. So just as a matter of fact, hold on, let me grab the pictures. I'll show you.
All right, sure, go
I got
ahead.
them. I got them right here, and then I'll probably got to wind it down here.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree with you, dude. Ring of Honor needs to do a AEW versus Ring of Honor. I would love to see Jay Lethal take on Cody Rhodes, or Jay Lethal taking on Ethan Page would be fun. I would love to see Jay Lethal take on some people. Like, that would be cool. Obviously, Danhausen. What's the one guy's name? Like, it's an old guy. I know it's not. It's like PCP. That's not his name. Like MCP.
PCO.
Like the guy. He's like from Sweden or somewhere.
Yeah, he wrestled in WWE. He's the Frankenstein character.
Right. That guy. He still can move. I think I enjoy him. He's a big old boy.
Yeah, he's like 60 years old.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. Yeah. So let's see these pictures. Now is that the Viking Raider guy?
Yeah, yeah, and the person that took the picture was his wife, who is Sarah Logan, who's also in WWE.
Sarah Logan, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because my buddy took a picture of her taking the picture of me. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then here in me and Sami, one of the independent shows that was here.
That's awesome. Sammy Guevara, where is he out of? San Antonio? Is that his hometown?
Yeah, Houston.
Houston, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice guy. And I'll tell you something else, too, that was really, really cool about Gino from MLW.
Right.
That the next time we went and saw him, he was coming up from Houston. It was for like a special show. I guess, I don't know if he did it for a favor for him or whatever, but apparently he had gotten a flat tire on the way to the show. I didn't know, but apparently he was running late and this and that. And I had taken a picture of him and my kid, and I sent it to him on Instagram. And I said, "Hey, man, I just want to tell you, thank you again so much. You know, you really made my son's day," or whatever. And he posted on Instagram after that a picture, I guess, of his tire that had just fallen off of his car. And he said he put on there, he put the picture of him and my son and the picture of the tire that unraveled on his car, and said, you know, worth every moment of it, you know, getting
That's
there.
Awesome.
So I thought that was really, really cool, man. Just it's really surprising, like you know, how dedicated these guys are to their craft.
Sure.
And even though they may be a heel on TV or whatever, probably some of the coolest guys you could ever meet, man. And
I can only imagine, dude. I have to. I'm just telling you right before Gary and I kind of wrap it up here in a sec. If you get a chance to watch some of these guys do their own stuff, like behind the scenes, like they do their YouTube videos, whatever they're doing, stuff like that, guys, I'm telling you, check it out. Like, you see another angle of them, you see another look from them, kind of like what Gary was saying. Like, these are like really good people. Like, you know, you can tell if you watch Ethan Page's from today, he released it today, his vlog on his channel. He doesn't try to do a gimmick while he's on the channel. Like, he's seriously just almost tearing up with this idea of doing the coffin match and having the biggest opportunity of his life.
Right.
And he's like being, I mean, you know, he looks so genuine and so sincere because he knows that he's given this cool opportunity that a lot of people don't never get. So
Right.
there's a lot of them that are really awesome, you know. So definitely worth checking out. I don't know if you've seen this. I'll leave you with this, Gary.
Sure.
If you get a chance, I don't know. Last week, Britt Baker did a promo with as I think as a John Kreese from Cobra Kai, and you know have you seen that video yet?
No. No.
Okay, so I can't remember the guy's real name all of a sudden. I feel terrible. Oh my gosh, uh the guy that who
Thinking
you know
of
who I'm talking
Johnny.
about, the guy who plays the Cobra Kai, the leader of the Cobra Kai,
Oh, the
not
old.
William Zabka, but the actual like military.
Yeah, the old guy.
Yeah, Kreese, right? So they were in a convention together last week, and she got him to go on do like a 30-second, 45-second, and cut a promo, and he's out there like smoking a cigar in the promo, just like in the movie, and just like
Mhm.
telling everybody that Britt Baker's going to destroy people left and right, and she comes from the Cobra Kai school and all this stuff, and I was like, and he's over here going nowhere, nowhere, or he's like, you know, no mercy and all this. I was like, dude, it was so fire.
That's
So
awesome.
if you get a
That's
chance to
awesome.
look it up, I mean, it's just it just cracks you up. You're like, it's like now, does that mean that Britt Baker's now in the Karate Kid universe? So, did we just open a new door?
Right.
So
That would be kind of cool, man. That
it
would be
would be
kind of
that'd be
cool.
hilarious. She shows up on some season and she just whips everybody's butt like
Right.
that.
Right.
She's like putting everybody in the the lockjaw. That's her finishing move. So,
So funny,
but
man.
all right, man.
I got a buddy
Go
with
ahead.
a
I'm
metal
sorry.
band called Lockjaw.
Oh yeah, there was a punk rock band back in the '80s and '90s. I remember called Lockjaw as well.
Yep. Yep.
All right, man. Well, hey, I'll let you go. I appreciate you popping in. Hopefully, we can do this again, maybe in a couple weeks. We'll
Yeah.
pop in and we'll just talk about some whatever random wrestling stuff. But
Sure.
thank you for taking the time out of your day to do it, man.
Hey, man. I appreciate you inviting me on. It's always a blast. Always a pleasure. Uh, I think my new favorite Jason is the glitch Jason.
I know I'm stuck in the interwebs. Help me, get me out of here. Get me out of here. All right, man. So we'll talk to you later. Until next time, man. Peace.
All right, you do, man. Later.
Thank you.